Hey everybody, how are you this morning? It is 7:41 a.m. in Tasmania on the 29th, Friday. I'm just watching Repo Man's latest video where he's done some work with Kevin, I think it is, Kevin Spinebreaker, about the Psalms. Now, I don't want to throw a spanner in the works here at all, but I think I mentioned it in my last video or the one before that I believe we are going on the Gregorian calendar. Hence, in my previous video, I mentioned the maths just doesn't work for me past 2023. Now, I know Cool Cat sort of dug this out originally, the Psalms, or somebody gave him the information and then he elaborated on it, but I'm just not seeing this Psalms thing. I mean, the first thing that came to mind when I watched, and I haven't finished watching it all yet, Repo Man's, I have watched more than 14 seconds that you can see there. The first thing that came to mind was Joseph Stalin, 1953. So what? I mean, we've had a lot of bad people in the world in 1953 that died, and just to pick out randomly Joseph Stalin has got me beat. Why we're doing that. And then all this alignment with, Psalm 124 being 2024, etc. I mean, I can see rapture typology there, but I think it's pretty loose actually. I think it was Psalm 148 or whatever, and then I don't know. And now suddenly we're jumping to Joseph Stalin and things that he said, and his death date. I'm just not seeing this. I mean, the world had a lot of bad people in it in 1958, post-World War II. Why Joseph? Is it because he was the only one that died at that particular time? I don't know. I'm just not seeing this, and I'm definitely not seeing 7th of January. I'll probably be wrong. Who knows? But I think this Psalm's correlation with the Gregorian year, whilst I do believe God is operating on the Gregorian year, and I've said that for a long time, I've looked at all the other timelines, etc., but there's so many discrepancies. If God was operating on one of those, we wouldn't have a clue which one, because it appears that they're all out. I mean, we've got two different Jewish years. One of them's 210 years difference than the other. We have discrepancies with start date slithers of moons and all this sort of stuff that we've mentioned so many times. I've never really thought that we were operating on the Jewish year, on the Jewish timeline. I thought that some of the Jewish feasts might have been significant, but significant in so much as that they were occurring on Gregorian dates. I was never really trying to, excuse me, other than Ezra, where I thought that may have been significant. The 20th of the 9th, 20th day of the 9th month, I thought that may have been significant. Therefore, we did our little conversion to the Gregorian to work out what day that was. And the Gregorian, which was December 3rd or 4th, I think. We all started at November 30th, which was that day that Repo Man couldn't work out for. Well, I don't think he's worked it out to this point. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely see the rapture typology in the bird caught in a snare and flying away or whatever it was, but I'm not seeing at all that necessarily has to be applied to 2024, because the way that we worked out that these psalms were applying to years, I mean, I read the verses that Cool Cat mentioned and looked at the reasons that he said this must mean 1948, this must mean 2023 or whatever, but I thought that was pretty loose at best. And to base our entire doctrine on that is starting to get a little bit strange. I don't know, but I mean, it could be right, and it's only 7 days difference, 7 days longer for us to wait, but I will turn your feast days into mourning, etc. What feast days are on the 7th of January? None that I know of, and not even secular ones. I don't see a feast day on the 7th of January. And I'm assuming that, the rapture will be part of the turning the feast days into mourning. Unless somebody can tell me we have some sort of Western world holiday here on the 7th of January that I don't know about. New Year's is over. We're into 2024. I'm not aware of any specific holidays on that time that would be turning feast days into mourning. Is there a Jewish? I don't think there's even a Jewish one, is there? Their feasts are all taken care of in 6 months, the first 6 months of the year, and it's not making a whole lot of sense to me. The Psalms bit. I mean, I can see it. I can hear Kelly read it out and kind of go, yeah, I can see that, but boy, I can see a lot of things a lot stronger than this correlation that everybody's been making with the Psalms. And to be honest with you, in all of the calculations and research that I've done, I've not once factored that in. Not once. It didn't mean a thing to me. We had the start date of Israel. We knew that. We've got our 80 years. We've got our tribulation time period. We've got it broken up into 3.5 year segments. And, here we are. We've got high watch dates on the 30th and the 31st. And we're hedging our bets already for that not to happen and for it to go into 2024. And I think that it's pretty loosely associated, or, the evidence is pretty loose, really. I mean, Joseph Starling? We've just picked Joseph Starling. Why did we pick Joseph Starling? I might do a Google search today to see who else significant died in 1953, and I bet you there was a ton of them. So, in fact, probably in 1952 and 1954 and 1950 and 1955 as well. So we've picked Joseph Starling for some reason, 1953. It's not like he was the only atheist world leader around at that particular point in time. And so what if he died? Why is that necessarily significant? The Bible was talking just about Joseph Starling? Why just about him? What about all the other nasties around then? Hitler was gone. It could have been a reference to him dying so many years earlier, if he actually died. I mean, I know there's conspiracy about that he ended up, I don't know where was it? Switzerland or somewhere? Something like that. Can't be sure. So I don't know. I wouldn't be basing a sort of a doctrinal timeline on this. and even at the very beginning of the thing that Spinebreaker was saying was that they don't all read like this, all the translations. So we've kind of picked a loose association with Gregorian years and now Joseph Starling, and in reality, not even all the translations read like that. So we've got loose associations, and we're picking translations that kind of fit that best. I don't know. If we get to the 1st of January or the 2nd of January, then obviously I would consider this. But I'd need to study it a lot more, because at the moment, having read those Psalms, I see the association with the Gregorian years quite loose. Quite loose. Particularly when, 1948, yeah, that's when they came back into the land, but there was hardly any people. They were just scattered. They were only just coming back in. There was no government. They didn't have a military. It's hardly what you call a country yet. They hadn't been recognised completely by the international, governing bodies, etc., until 1949. And my actual date is 1950, when the Knesset was completely formed and I think made their first vote or something like that, or their first law or whatever. Or it might have been that the Knesset was accepted by the United Nations or whatever the equivalent was back then. Excuse me, I can't stop coughing. So I love this study, but there's no way I'm looking at January 7th this early already. And there's no way that I'm looking at it based on those Psalms yet. Because, I've read them, and I can interpret them exactly the way Kelly interprets them, but I can read them completely differently as well, to not meaning that. So I'm not too sure. I'm not poo-pooing anybody's video or Spinebreaker's research, but we're sort of starting to look past where we believe the end point is, almost as if we've given up. And that'll probably fail anyway, so let's look for the next one. So we've got two up our sleeve. We are extremely, extremely close, and we also have to remember things like the countdown for the Sustainable Development Goals, etc. All of that countdown's the 1st of January. That finishes, it stops on 2020, end of 2023. That's a pretty big sign. I mean, that's all to do with the 7-year peace treaty and all these sorts of things that we know we've definitely been looking at. And now all of a sudden we're extrapolating an extra 7 days based on these Psalms verses. And I understand people keep saying, Kelly's proven that the Psalms are associated with the years. Well, who said he has? I mean, what basically people are saying is that Kelly's come up with an idea that the Psalms may be associated with the years, and that I think that there might be some validity in that. Kelly hasn't proven it at all. In fact, none of this will be proven to us 100% until we're in heaven and we have hindsight. That's why our God knows everything and controls everything and ordains and appoints everything, because he's outside of time. He doesn't need hindsight. He exists in all 3 states, past, present, and future, at the same time. So, love the video, Mike. Interesting the way you put this one together with collaboration from Spinebreaker. It was really cool. And it was also fun to see the way you guys sort of are collaborating behind the scenes to nut all this out. So obviously there's a lot of work and research and hard, effort and time put into this. So we greatly appreciate that, of course. But I think I would have held off until January the 1st to put this one out. Don't think I would have put it out yet because I think this Psalms association is a little loose. I can see it, but we can see a lot of things biblically. I mean, we could definitively see that the 9th day, the 20th month of the 9th day in Ezra was a day that they gathered for a proclamation, for judgment, etc. And decisions were made on the 1st of the 10th month, I think, and that took 3 months. So we looked at all these sorts of correlations that to me looked a lot stronger than the way we're saying the Psalms associated with the years. They may well be, of course. So I'm not putting down anybody's research. I just think we're a bit premature to jump to the 7th. And I think that is loosely based anyway, particularly when we're now grabbing at world leaders like Stalin based on the fact that he said, they fooled us, there is no God. Just pretty much every world leader agrees with that. I mean, let's face it, if they're all Kabbalists and in this together, they all agree that. Every single one of them agrees that, I guess they're not really atheists, are they? And I don't believe that Joseph Stalin believed that there was no God. What I believe is that they were all satanic, and they believe that Satan is their God, not the God that we believe, because we know damn well that everything that's going on worldwide is associated with the Kabbalists, and it's a big plan. It's obvious. We only had to see how there's never been anything imposed worldwide ever in history, but there was in 2019 odd, and we know what that was. Everybody was supposed to take it. So we know definitively start dates and points and so on as far as Israel's formation goes, or we know within at least sort of 1 or 2 years, depending on which one you want to pick. And these were predicted, easily read, easily interpretable, and easily applied to our Gregorian calendar. I mean, Israel wasn't there, and then it was. But, I mean, caught in a snare and then set free, that was a little bit of the verse that Repo Man read. To me, caught in a snare could also mean having been caught in the rapture for 7 years and then finally released. Caught in the tribulation for 7 years and then finally, it's over. So that wouldn't point to 2024 at all. That would point to 2030 or 31 or something. So just because it's Psalm 124, I don't know whether that necessarily means the years. I mean, you can read a lot into those psalms, and they're very open to interpretation in a lot of ways, particularly the way Kelly did it, with association with things that had happened in Israel's past, etc. I mean, I heard everything that he said when he did his teaching on those, and at the end of it, my view was, maybe. I definitely didn't come away with this, oh, what a revelation, yeah. The Psalms are definitely the Gregorian years. I did not feel that at all. So, and then all of a sudden the whole Watchman community came on and started saying, we've proven that the Psalms line up with the Gregorian calendar. Well, who's we? We haven't. We've come up with an idea. We haven't proven anything. And just because we can make an association with Israel and Psalm 148 or whatever it is, or I don't know how he did it. Was it 48? Psalm 48 for 1948? Or was it 148? I'm not sure. Just because we can sort of read that loosely into the text of that verse or chapter, Doesn't mean it's correct. That's definitively pointing to 1948. I don't know. I'm not 100% down with that one. Well, my phone went blank. But I guess it's another date for us to look at, and it's some more research to consider. But, like I said before, when we move into 2024, we're starting to throw out so much other stuff, and we're going to replace it with the Psalms. So the math isn't lining up anymore, but the Psalms say, so we forget everything else that we've studied for the last 5 years, and we're just going to look at the Psalms. It's almost like we've gone from looking at the whole Bible to trying to extrapolate everything out of these Psalms of Ascent. I mean, look, I'm hoping it's before 2024, and that's the way the math looks for me. It's that simple. If we go into January the 7th, which is only 7 days later, oh well. I mean, maybe that period of time aligns with the period of time that Moses was, that Noah was at the ark door. Maybe there's your 7-day overlay. I don't know, but I mean, we were told pretty plainly to look for a 7-year peace treaty and all this sort of stuff, and the time clock on that is January the 1st. From the signing of that to January the 7th, is that the 7 days Noah sat at the ark door or something? I don't know, but we can overlay these time periods in all sorts of situations now. Because we're in such a high watch period, we could say today, 7 days from today, it could happen. So I don't know, I'm not definitely, all I'm saying is I'm not jumping to this conclusion about the Psalms being aligned with the years yet, because none of the research I've done, and it's brought me to the very same dates that many other watchmen have, Repo Man, Kelly, the whole lot of them, we've all been doing this together. Not once have I considered the Psalms in my calculations, and I've still got to the same place that everybody else has. I guess we'll see how we go. But for now, I'm still looking at 3031, the end of the Gregorian year, which would essentially stretch to January 1st, because they won't finish until midnight on the 31st of December. There is also your twinkling of, well, it's not really a twinkling of an eye, is it? But it's the change, between one day and 1 year and the next. It changes in a second. I mean, we've been looking at the twinkling of the eye associated with sunset or something like that, but it could mean something else. It could simply mean it happens at that very second when we go from 23 to 24. And that's when King Charles's timer runs out too. Anyway, just keep looking up, guys. I really do believe we're close. I still feel it's 2023. I will look at the 2024 research, etc., when we get to 2024. And we don't have long to wait, so it won't be long before I potentially have to do that research. But right now, I'm sticking right where I am. Anyway, guys, God bless. Keep looking up. It's by the blood of Jesus, his works and his perfect life alone that get us entry into heaven. Nothing that we've done, said, are going to do, nothing that we've worked out or haven't worked out has any bearing on our salvation. God bless.